was Stamos like the first guy you thought of, or who was actually cast first in your mind?
The first person to be cast was Jodie Sweetin. Miller Boyette had the show called Valerie, and she had just done a guest shot at 4 years old where she was just adorable. They showed me the clip.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is Shirley Temple incarnate. Like, what is going on with this little girl? She's like knocking jokes out of the park. Like, okay. And so we sent Jodie the script, and she, I don't know if she read it or it was read to her, but she sat there with a cigar and her cognac and said,
with her agent and her manager, letting her out of the limo.
Yeah, so she said, yeah, I'll do it. And
wow.
So Jodie was the first.
So you cast a 4-year-old first.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I remembered our first table read. We were at some hotel on Wilshire Boulevard. Do you remember that?
It was the Century Plaza Hotel.
Century Plaza.
And we had our very first table read, where there's a room full of studio and network executives and everybody who could possibly be there. They were all there to see Stamos, I think, but
they weren't there to see me. That's for sure. An unknown comic.
But yeah, there was probably 100 people in the room, and Jodie just stole
the show,
stole the whole thing.
And I remember walking out with John. He's like, "The whole show's going to be her. We can't do this." I remember, did he tell you anything after that day, like, this little girl, is a scene stealer or anything like that? Because I know John was always in your ear about his ideas for the show.
I learned this much later, that he was so upset about having to play second fiddle to these really funny kids that he went out and called his agent and said, this is a mistake, get me off the show. And they talked him down, and eventually he made his peace with the fact that he's working with kids and animals and being upstage
W.C. Fields, all
yeah.
over again. I remember I had met you through Gary Shandling.
I have no memory of that.
Was it at the audition? Because I remember I think you knew Gary already.
Oh, I was I was working on It's Gary Shandling show at the time, but Gary was the person who taught me how to write sitcoms when I was 23 years old.
That's pretty amazing. I remember you telling me that.
Before he was a stand-up, he was a writer on Welcome Back, Kotter.
Right.
And we were in an improv class together and became friends. And he actually was the one that said to me, he goes, "Jeff, you are not that funny." Because I was in an improv class.
But he didn't whiny. Jeff, you're not that funny.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, how's my hair?
But he said, "Yeah, you have a funny brain. So you should be a sitcom writer. I think that's where you should." And taught me how to do it. Changed my whole life.
So then I remember my audition coming in, and it was Fern Champion, Pamela Basker, you, Tom Miller, and Bob Boyette. And I remember walking in, I had my pages, and I did my scene, and then I was leaving, and Tom Miller stopped me. I think I did some voices, I did Kermit the Frog, I threw some stuff in, and I was trying to show you guys what I could do, that I'm more than just an actor, I can do voices and characters. And so Tom Miller stopped me and he said, "Wait a second, I'd like you to read for the father." And I said, "Okay, give me the sides." And I went out, studied the sides for the dad, and I came back in and read that too.
You are Joey Gladstone. I mean, that was as a writer, that's a miracle day where somebody walks in and is the character that you wrote on the page. I mean, there was no question. We found our guy, we were done. And we're all excited in the room, and you can just feel it.
Right.
And we're just waiting for you to leave so we could go make an offer. And suddenly Tom is saying, "Yeah, go read for the dad." And we're all looking around, eyes are rolling, what is this about? And, you were a good sport about it. You went out, you learned a whole nother character.
At that
came
point,
back in, got no laughs at all.
None.
As the dad, and walked back out.
Yeah, and you put your arm around me and you walked me out. And I remember thinking, okay, I didn't get this because they had me read for the father, so I must have sucked at the other one. But I remember getting laughs in the room, and it was always so hard during the audition process to try and get legitimate laughs. And I thought, well, they must not have liked me very much because, I'm reading for the dad. And then I went home and you guys had made an offer. It was pretty fast. And Brad Gray called me. Dave, they made an offer on this Full House pilot. So, give me a call. So, but I remember that day very, very clearly. You got to tell everybody what the auditions were like for the Olsen twins, because there were a bunch of kids that came in, right?
Yeah, it was baby day. It was time to try to cast the baby, and there were about 16 sets of twins.
Wow.
That were already in. There was some vacant office that we used, and so there was 32 babies in a room, and
so they're just crawling around,
and 16 moms.
Wow.
Trying to wrangle, their kids so they're not crying and, trying to make a good impression. But, I'm a bachelor, single guy. I'm not even an uncle in real life yet. I haven't touched a baby ever, except for when I was one. I think that was the last time I touched a baby. So it was bizarre. Like we were just, where are you from? Tell me about your last project. None of that was working.
Yeah.
You just got to get down on the floor.
But why them? How did you decide?
It was just a process of elimination. Babies are crying. They're freaking out. The main thing was a stranger is in their face,
right.
Picking up strange kids. How are they going to react? If they're freaking out, if they're screaming for their mom or whatever, then you kind of think, all right, this is not somebody that is going to really flourish on a sound stage with 100 people.
Right.
So it really was just a process of elimination. And at the end of about 40 minutes, I think it was the Olsen twins and one other set of twins. And we were on the ground, trying to figure out who to go with. And, they just had these faces, and they were great with strange people.
Yeah,
they were having a blast, and those faces were just amazing.
Did Stamos even audition? Did John have to read? Because he was already on General Hospital, and then he did You Again with Jack Klugman, and he was already a TV star, right?
John Stamos,
right? Right.
So he was really the only name on my list, and we had sent him the script, and they said, okay, we'll meet, And so John and I had a lunch at the Mustache Cafe, which is no longer there. But,
right.
We'd never met, didn't know each other. And we just started talking about Elvis and the Beach Boys and girls and, who have you dated? Who have you dated? Did we date the same people? We spent about 2 hours just talking, getting to know each other. And it was just great. Time flew by, and we never talked about the show once. And suddenly he's at valet, getting his car, about to drive off, and I'm like, hey, wait, what about the show?
Right.
Will you do it? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm in, and drove off.
Then you and I and John sat down. We met. Was it at the same place?
I think so.
I think so.
I like the chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake started my career. So then you wanted me to meet with John.
Yeah, you were already set. It wasn't an audition. It was just like, hey, I want my two stars to say hi and get some chemistry going. And so we all had lunch together.
So we had lunch together, and John calls you afterwards and says,
I thought comics were supposed to be funny. What's going on with this guy? You were very engaging, as you always are, but you weren't on.
I was polite.
You weren't doing voices. You weren't doing.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're probably a little nervous. Maybe, I don't know.
Of course, I was.
But I said, this guy's hilarious. Like, okay, we're going out tomorrow night. I think we talked you into arranging to do a set like a day or two later.
I went and did
right?
stand up. Was it Comedy Magic or Comedy Store?
I think it was either the Comedy Magic Club or maybe Igby's.
It was Igby's. That's right. It was Igby's in Santa Monica. It's not there.
So we went and saw you work, and you crushed it. I know you remember this Wizard of Oz bit. That
Yeah, I
think
did it on the
closed your
show.
set with,
Yeah, I closed with the Wizard of Oz thing. I
with
did
a
all the
big,
characters.
spinning house prop. Right?
I had all that stuff. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching this clip of Full House Rewind. For the full episode, go check out the Full House Rewind YouTube channel at the link in the description. Thanks for tuning in.